before for companies I've worked at, but I've never like been in the live. So
It's gonna be great.
It is great. It's currently great.
We are officially live.
Oh, we are. Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, sorry. Let me see if there's a fancy banner we can put up. Yeah, I like that. Hello, everyone. We're live.
Hello.
We're back. It's 2024.
Woo!
Yeah. Can I do the thing? Yes.
Oh, nice.
I still need to update mine.
Oh, yeah. Yes, you do. I occasionally use this laptop for like other, video calls that I end up in. Maybe it's networking or something like that. People who are like less familiar with the Google Meets, the whole phenomenon where you can like, make balloons go off or be in a rave. It's very surprising to people. But my favorite is the fact that like you can be talking about something very serious and it thinks that you're like giving a thumbs up. Which I guess is good. It lightens the mood. Anyway, we're here. Hi, thanks for being here. If this is your first time joining, welcome. If you were returning, welcome. So we are thoughtbot. We're a design and development consultancy. We've been around for a long time. We do all kinds of great work with startup founders, brand new product owners, all the way to legacy products, enterprise organizations who need help improving their products. We also launched an incubator early in 2023. And so it's been an entire year of incubating new startups and working with founders. And we have some new founders to introduce to you today, which we are very excited about. Again, if you're not familiar, our incubator program is an 8-week program where we start at the very earliest stages of market and product opportunity validation. So we get with founders to do a lot of research, customer discovery, and then start testing out some software solutions for a target market. So we're going to talk about that over the next 8 weeks with our new founders of Womanish and our resident director of product strategy, Jordan. I'll let you all introduce yourselves though, because you'll probably do a lot better job than I will. Jordan, do you want to kick us off?
I'm Jordan Bonds, and I'm the director of product strategy. Excuse me. On the early stage team at thoughtbot. Yeah, and we've been running some incubators. It's been really fun. This is our first session of 2024. Very exciting. We've learned some things. Getting better all the time. Very excited to be here with Womanish.
Oh, I guess I could go next. Yeah. My name is Danyelle. I'm one half of Womanish. So I am the co-founder and COO of Womanish. And just a little bit about my background is in events and marketing. I've been doing that for about 10 years. And super excited to be a part of this accelerator. Dawn and Jordan have been great so far. So good times.
And last but not least, my name is Dionna. I am the other half, I guess she already said that, but one half of Womanish. I am the co-founder and CEO of Womanish. My background is in growth acceleration and marketing. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Super excited to be here. And as Danyelle said, we've had like such an amazing experience already. So very excited.
Awesome. We're so excited to get to work with y'all. So please, if you're here, leave comments, ask questions. We'd love to hear, from you all about what you're interested in learning from these founders or about the program. So don't be shy. Dionna and Danielle, why don't y'all tell us a little bit more about what Womanish is and, all of the wonderful things that y'all have been working on leading up to, applying for and starting this incubator.
Yeah, so Womanish is an experiential exhibit and community for women. Um, so, once you step into this space, it's very immersive. We immerse you in all of the art installations, and we really wanted to create a safe space that is built to celebrate women. In addition, it's also community focused as well. So we're really strong on like impacting and empowering the community that we're in and also the people there as well. So
And previously, we've had 2 locations in Chicago and Miami. And so right now we're working on creating an app to connect our community online outside of our brick and mortar locations.
Nice. Well, what brought you to this point where you're exploring, how to involve technology in the whole thing?
Yeah. So really, it's kind of listening to our customers. Since we had locations in both Chicago and Miami, we got a lot of requests and insights from people all over the country asking how they can be involved in Womanish. And our community, I don't think, is just localized. We have people from all over the country who, believe in our mission, which is supporting and empowering women. And so really, we trying to figure out the best way to connect everybody and really create a place that fosters meaningful connection. We did a really good job of doing that in the space, and now we're looking to see how we can do that digitally so we can impact more people.
What are some of the things y'all are most excited about? I know we just started. We started this week?
Last week,
Last week, sorry.
yeah.
Time. Yeah, right. It's Wednesday. Sorry. My mind is still stuck in last week. We started last week. So, what are y'all excited about, regarding the programming? How's it been going so far?
It's been going really great. We're super excited about really validating our idea and being able to create something that we can take to market that has been like tested and, tried and true. We're also in the middle of a race. So as you all know, this is it's like one of the worst times to raise ever. So being able to, take a tried and true and validated product to an investor and say, hey, we know this is going to work. Do you want, we're offering you a chance to be a part of this, So that's what I'm really excited about.
Yeah, echoing Deanna's thoughts, I think just the finding that really great product market fit is going to be really important for us. We kind of know what we think our consumers want, but really validating that idea is going to be really important. And it's interesting because I feel like we've learned a lot about assumptions and realizing that a lot of the stuff we think is going to work are, really assumptions, but it's exciting to be able to like get all your assumptions out and then being able to figure out a way to actually prove if those are going to be right or not, which I think is something that's really important for founders because you're going to have your own bias and assumptions, but is that really what the market wants? And that is what we're doing with thoughtbot, which has been really a good exercise for the both of us.
Yeah. I've had the pleasure of like being able to participate at this stage and kind of support the project a little bit more than I usually do. And it's always like super exciting to dig into, this customer discovery work. But what's are some things that have been surprising to you all so far? Like, have there been any assumptions or, biases that you have that have been really surprising to you so far?
Not yet, I would say. I feel like when we get this week, we're getting into like our user interviews, and I think that that'll be really interesting because I think I have assumptions of what our first persona is going to think or say. But I think once we dive a little bit more into the user interviews and really get to talk to them, I feel like I'm going to be surprised about some things that we find out. But it's also nice to hear everyone else's assumptions. I feel like we all pretty much have a good round table of assumptions that kind of balance things out. So I'd like that there's multiple people on the project and offering their insights and ideas. And it's also nice that people aren't afraid to like challenge the assumptions and things like that. So it's been, I think, a really positive work environment for sure.
I would say for me, I think some of the personas or the markets that we pulled out were a little bit surprising. But, as I said earlier, I'm going with it, being open and really making sure that, we're honing in on the right people and different things of that nature. So, yeah, I'm excited.
What about you, Jordan? Anything surprising so far?
I would share Deanna's point that like some of the sort of segments that we end up, one of the exercises we do early in the incubator is to just get all of the ideas out on like who this could be for. And it's a tough exercise because usually as a founder, you're thinking about a kind of combination of market segment, individual customer persona, and like life triggers, sort of outside triggers, like why would someone come to the platform, when, et cetera. And it's hard to just tease out the idea of just a segment for a second, like what is a market segment? But, like Yana, like the list, you get more than two people in a room and everybody's just got a ton of different ideas about who this could be for, who we should focus on for different reasons. And so the list was super interesting to me as well, like just surprising stuff in there that I wouldn't necessarily have thought of myself, which is why it's great to have a team. On the assumptions tip as well, Danyelle, you kind of touched on this, but like that's another thing that always, surprises me is like we can, again, you get two people in a room and you can have two opposing assumptions. One person is like, well, I assume tomorrow will be rainy. And the other person is like, I assume it will be sunny. And you're like, wow, who knew? And as a founder, or a founding team, often you get sort of your assumptions. It's really hard to externalize them because they're assumptions. Like you take them as fact, whether or not you have any like evidence for them. And bumping up against people with like the exact inverse assumption from yours is like both scary and refreshing. You're like, oh yeah, of course. Like why would everyone think the same thing? And the goal is not to necessarily invalidate them. It's to just make sure that we know why we have the assumptions that we have, and we have some receipts to back up like why it's, to turn an assumption into something we actually like a conviction. So that's like, the only way you can really do that is by externalizing them. And it's often really scary at first because you're like, it's invariably, and you all are actually fantastic about this. This isn't even you. I'm talking about me when I say this. You start to externalize one and you just immediately feel defensive about it. Like, it's like, this is my special baby assumption. Why are you attacking my like whatever? But the framework that like the programming that we run in the incubator is really great at lowering the stakes of that. We all have assumptions constantly about everything. That's okay. And a lot of them are actually perfectly fine and true. We just need to make sure we know what they are so that they don't blindside us later. And so that we can test and validate and, so that when we are pitching investors and they say, I don't agree, if we are people who think it's going to rain tomorrow and they are people who think it's going to be sunny, we can say, well, I don't know, man, it's like February in Seattle. Seems like it might rain. Like we actually have like a reason, research, something to back it on. Like that's always good. It's always better. It's better for making your case externally, but it's also better for making it to yourself. Like I think I, at least as a founder, didn't realize how uncertain I actually was about what I was doing, brittle. But once you get to a place of conviction around it, where you've tested some things and you've validated them, you feel like $1 million because you're just like, yeah, come at me. Like, I know this is true. What do you just have been thinking about this for 5 minutes? I've been thinking about this for 5 months. Like, what? And that's a good feeling. And that's when you start raising money, because you're like, yeah, I don't have any doubts. You can come at me with whatever questions you want. But yeah, the getting all the assumptions out, a lot of the segments we've come up with, just surprising stuff in there. That challenge, the more you get your own stuff challenged, the easier it is to. Every single instance of it feels much lower stakes, right? So yeah, anyway, fun stuff.
Well, one thing that we had or I personally had to think about almost right off the bat was, and we talked about this as a group, how to not get so, sort of get that tunnel vision around your experience, especially when, it's a market or a group that you identify strongly with, and especially when you start bringing up, other things, other identifiers. For me, it's like being a mom who works and all these other things. It's really hard not to, get really sucked into that and think, yes, let's build a product for myself. But we did recognize it, or I did try to recognize it early on and just say, okay, thankfully, Jordan, you were there to say, just put your name down on this persona list. Just like put your name down there, and let's just like get it out of the way so that we can make sure that we're considering, all of our assumptions and all the possible,
Right. And we can ask, is Dawn a market segment, right? Dawn is definitely a human who we know and who has like, traits and a life, et cetera. But does she represent a market opportunity is really the question we're trying to figure out. Yeah. And it can be really liberating because it's like, and we are focused on a segment that is not me right now, which is great because then I get to be really agnostic. I'm like, I don't know what people, like the people that we're talking to, I'm not them. So I don't know. And it actually helps for me anyway, to be much more clear on all the assumptions I have, because they feel a lot more like biases because I'm directing them at someone else, right? I'm like, well, don't these people XYZ? And then as soon as I even frame the thought to myself, I'm like, how the hell do I know, right? Which is just great. It's very liberating. Yeah, it's an interesting trap that a lot of founders fall into. Trap is maybe too strong of a word, but it's a great thing to be building something for yourself in a lot of ways, right? But it can, like, you have all the passion, right? You know the pain points, et cetera. Like, but you can get really myopic about, it's like, are you an unusual person in this regard? Who knows, right? But B, it's like you can really start to get super kind of dogmatic. Like, no, it has to be this way because that's what I want. I mean, again, speaking from experience, the first startup I founded was a product that I just wanted to use, and I couldn't find one that was the thing I wanted to use. And I was like, great, that's a market opportunity, right? No, the answer was absolutely no, but story for another time.
Danyelle and Dionna, what has your experience been so far with that sort of dynamic here? I mean, you've probably been experiencing it for a while, considering what you've been doing with Womanish so far.
Yeah, I think definitely a good point of trying to like take yourself out of it, kind of, because originally I think we built the experience kind of for our personas, right? What did we want? What did we want like people to see and feel when they walked in? But I think that it's always good, like being a part of a team, to have like outside thoughts, because it wasn't just our ideas, of course. Like, we had a team to help us like add in things that maybe we wouldn't have thought of. And so I think that it's always nice when you're thinking through like a new product and you have multiple kind of viewpoints, so you can kind of see the full picture, because you can get really honed in on, well, I want, and this is what I would do. But it's like, you could be an oddball, but you're of course assuming that you're the standard, but that isn't always the case. And so I think like removing yourself from that can be challenging as a founder, because you want to build something for you, but you also want to make sure that you want to make sure that it sells. You want to make sure that there's an audience, right? That it's not literally just you, but it's for people who have more so of a problem you're solving versus like building something for you. So this has been like definitely good exercise. And as far as that, because like our first persona or something, it wasn't something I describe myself as, right? And so that I think that's a little challenging as we're going into our user interviews, because you're like, well, I want to interview more people like me, but it's like maybe that's not the best way to start, you know? So I think this has been really helpful.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you know, even just in like our past experiences, like how we, you know, how we marketed in Chicago was completely different than how we marketed in Miami, and we had to learn that very quickly, like the verbiage and different things like that. So that was like the first inclination where we're like, whoa, okay, like we need to do actual like research into the market, even if it's like, you know, geographically different. So yeah, just learning to not make those assumptions automatically based off of, because, you know, Danielle and I are from Chicago. So not to say we're like a representation of women in Chicago, but like, you know, obviously, you know, we're not as in tune with the market in Miami. And so that was a quick learning. That we had. So yeah, just kind of like adding on to what you all were saying, making sure that, you know, we really are open to removing these biases to really define and validate who our audience is really important.
Yeah,
Say
I love it.
more about that experience. And now I really want to hear more about sort of, did you all do a bunch of research in Miami ahead of time? Or did you just try to copy your playbook from Chicago and then it failed? And what did failure look like? And how quickly was the cycle? How quick was the cycle? Sorry. How quick was the cycle? Yes.
Yeah, so I would say just as far as marketing goes, when we were like the verbiage and the voice that we were using in Chicago was like exhibit, um, you know, women empowerment, you know, different things of that nature. And then in Miami, you know, so, you know, our conversion rate, you know, in Chicago was sky high, right? And you know, we did really well via ads. In Miami, we saw that it was like a reduction of like 70%, you know, immediately. So I'm like, oh my God, like what's happening? Um, so we had to use different verbiage and even target a different audience. And so in Miami, we targeted creators, influencers, like photographers, fashionistas, different things of that nature. And those weren't really segments that we had targeted in Chicago. So, yeah, I would say it was a really quick learning, like maybe 30, 60 days in, we were like, okay, this isn't just like it's a slow pickup. Like, no, this is, you know, we really need to do a deep dive. And you know, I think that's one of those things when, you know, our first location was very successful. And so we were just like, oh, well, if we can do this in Chicago, we can definitely do this in Miami. And so we're like, we don't need to do research on the market. And, you know, I had lived there for like a year. I'm like, I know, you know, like it'll be fine. But no, we were completely wrong. So, you know, I think that, you know, we've learned very quickly that you know, each market is different. Um, and making sure that you take the time to research the location, the people there, et cetera, is very important. So, yeah. And you'd think we would know that, you know, especially both of us have marketing backgrounds, but just completely went out the window, I think, because of like our biases, you know? So
That's one of the ironies, right? Is like you can just, and it's so much easier to do for someone else and their project because you have that little bit of distance to see it clearly. When it's your own thing and you feel so passionately about it and you're so inside of it, and it's really like, you know, however you might try to protect yourself against this dynamic, it's really like an extension of you. Like when people say it's my baby, like, yeah, it's pretty close. And so you just can't get out of your own way sometimes. Like, I had been the head of product at a startup when I started my own startup. What did I do? I did like every rookie. What? I thought I knew. What? I look back on it and I'm like, I would never run a process like that for the company I was working at or for like a client. And yet here I was being like, no, I know what this needs to be. Right? It's really wild how it happens to even the best of us. So.
Yeah, exactly. Me and Danyelle, we talk to each other every day. Like, how, like, just really don't understand. We've been doing this all our lives, but when it came to our actual project, we were like,
Well, I will say, we've kind of learned too over time. This is a good segue into what some of my next questions were going to be anyway. But especially repeating this program and this process, very explicitly through the incubator, we've really reinforced how much need there is for every one of us who like literally does this for a living. Like we, do this as consultants all the time, all day, every day. Um, every time we start a new project, there is a bit of, sort of reinforcing and reminding ourselves that emotional bell curve that's going to happen, some of the things that you need to look out for regarding, you know, not sort of getting that tunnel vision around, identifying too strongly with the personas or, making too many assumptions or whatever that looks like. Like this is a process that every one of us, even as consultants, has to go through to make sure that we're like showing up and doing it as best as we possibly can without just letting those like habits and all that confirmation bias just like come right back in. It just rushes back in.
I mean, we're humans, right?
Yeah.
There's actually a really fantastic Wikipedia page called List of Cognitive Biases that I highly recommend like every human being read, because you'll just be like, oh yeah, no, that's me. Yep, got that one. Oh, I can think of 5 times I've done that today. Like it's just truly deep. But yeah, the confirmation bias is just really deep in this regard. There's also there's recency bias, like whatever happened most recently, you're just going to over index on that. And if like familiarizing yourself with those things as a founder is great, both for yourself, but also because you know that your customers have those biases as well. And you can actually design around them or design with them in mind. It's just like, I don't know, I feel like it's like there should be like a cognitive biases class in high school or something. There's like 2 classes that there should be in high school. One is how to use a spreadsheet. Like, oh my God, right? All of our jobs, what are our jobs? Emailing people and spreadsheets. It's your job, it's my job, what? So like, can we just have a class? Like, what's a macro, man? Like just whatever. Anyway, spreadsheets, cognitive biases. And then I feel like, okay, you know what? Now you're ready for the world. Now you're ready to be a human adult. You got those 2 things. Anyway, you were teeing up something, Don. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, okay, so now we're gonna have to share that resource. You're gonna have to find that link, and we'll share it to everybody here so we can all learn a little bit more about ourselves. No, I was gonna ask, so we've done this for a year. You've been a part of every one of the sessions that we've had, and the last session we had, we actually ran, with 2 different companies. So in looking back and thinking about, what you've even learned from going through this programming, what are some things that you're taking into the new year and these new sessions?
The number one thing, well, there's 2 things, and this actually speaks very directly to this dynamic we were just talking about, which is I think the programming is solid, and when we follow it, it's successful, and when we off-road from it, it's less successful. And last year, a couple of times, I was like, whatever, we don't need to like do this so precisely, and it was just like, yes, we do. It's actually, and it like keeps everybody on the team honest, not just the founders. Anyway, so that's one sort of high level thing of just like, yes, every time it's a little bit different. but focusing on doing the programming and doing it in a specific order, I think is really like sort of, it's worth trying to do it right rather than just immediately letting it go out the window, doing something else. So like, that's one thing. But a sort of subset of that is, in particular, not waiting to start interviewing potential customers. It's a really tough thing because the very first week of the programming is really around identifying that customer, who is the niche that we should really start with. And it can be really hard to do. I mean, this team has actually has taken to this process like really well, and we've managed to do it really quickly. But there are times where there are more unknowns, and so we can't actually pick. We find that there's some resistance in picking because we feel like we don't have enough information about the market. But my experience is like, we should just start interviewing people anyway. Like every time we've waited, if we wait too long, it's just, I can't overstate how much talking to human beings about their lives and their work accelerates your business. Like, I don't know how else to say it. Like, there are bound to be people out there watching this right now who are just like, yeah, I'll talk to customers next month, or I'm not ready to talk about my project yet because I'm not done thinking about it. Nope, that's not true. I don't even know you. I don't know you. I don't know anything about your project. You should be talking to people about it yesterday, because the longer it just like hangs out in your brain, the more those like assumptions build up, the higher the like your sort of sunk cost. There's another cognitive bias for you. The higher your feeling of like you've kind of like created something that you're very attached to. So getting to that point where you're talking to people, even if it's the wrong people, like you just got to talk to people, because that's how you figure out who the right people are. Again, knowing, oh, not these people for these reasons is really valuable. And then it helps direct you to the people that you should be talking to. Because frankly, even when you're talking to the wrong people, often they're going to be like, you know who you should ask about this? Like, they're going to have ideas for you. Like, and it goes for the team as well. Just like we were saying before, the more people you have in the conversation, the more diversity of experience you're bringing to bear, the better you are. Like the science shows this. It's very much true, but it goes for customers as well. And we're doing a great job. Like, we're going to probably we're going to have our first interviews probably tomorrow, right? Great. That is so good. If I could make it even 2 days earlier, I would. But like, this is very good. This is probably the quickest we got to it of any session. And I think it comes from learning the hard way last year that like the longer you wait, the more you delay value, getting to share value. Oh, because also, again, talk to people about what you're doing. You person out there, I'm looking at you. Talk to people about what you're doing. That goes without saying. However, there's an additional benefit when you have a team, which is that when everyone on the team is talking to the same persona using the same broad script, and we use the word script, but it's really sort of like having the same conversation, it drives team alignment like nothing else. Like that, we are no longer internally arguing about things we don't know anything about. I'm sure you all have been in projects like this where it's like, well, I think, I mean, let me use my example. I think it's going to rain tomorrow. Well, I think it's going to be sunny. Like, neither one of us is a meteorologist. And why are we talking about this, right? Like, we've all been in conversations like this. But if you can go to the market and get answers and you're all hearing the same answers, you stop arguing about it. You're aligned. Like, we're hearing the same things from the same people. It drives clarity about who you're serving and the pain points they have. But it also drives clarity about what the product needs to be, because yes, we move the conversation to be like, well, what's the solution? Cool. But then instinctively, we all want to go test it with people because we know they're going to tell us what's awesome, right? So it really drives team alignment. I just can't stress, if it's not driving team alignment, by the way, then you're talking to different people. Then you haven't picked a group of people who are the same. So if you're out there being like, I don't agree, we've done customer discovery out the wazoo and it only fueled internal arguments because, okay, that happens sometimes, but it's a really great sign that you haven't narrowed in on a specific customer, because if you'll dig in, you will find you're actually talking to different personas, and that's the source of the misalignment. Anyway, can you tell that I'm enthusiastic? about talking to customers.
No, I literally cannot tell at all.
So many people don't do it. I mean, I hear this all the time from founders. I'm not ready yet. I'm like, I don't know how to. You're never going to be ready. Just talk. The first conversation is going to be terrible. You're going to totally screw it up. Sorry. That's absolutely true. But I will guarantee you that first conversation is going to be bad no matter when you have it. So better to have it yesterday so you can start getting better at it. Like, come on. Okay.
Don't worry, Danielle and Dionna, you're gonna like share this enthusiasm by the time that you leave here. If there's anything you take away.
I'm excited.
This is the enthusiasm of a failed founder, by the way. I'm just like, don't do this how I did it. Okay.
Yeah, I think like for us, since we had a physical space, we talked to a lot of our customers in person. So we're kind of, it wasn't like user interviews, but we had so many conversations with our customers in the space. And so and that was kind of like our favorite part. Like, so I think we're very excited about continuing to talk to our customers for sure. They're the heart and soul of your company. So you got to.
Yeah, I think one of the things I wish we would have done as well is like, you know how when you get on a flight and when you land, they like send you a survey like, how was your flight? You know, I wish that we would have done that as well so we could have gotten like more of the feedback. But yeah, as Danyelle said, because we did have that opportunity to have people come into the space, we did get a lot of feedback just from, you know, our employees who work there. You know, when we were there, people coming up to us like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing, you know. So yeah.
Which is so great that you all have that sort of like, and yeah, you already know that every one of those conversations is valuable, right? And having a context where you sort of invariably get to have them is amazing. Software is, especially consumer-facing software, so hard to get people to talk to you. I guess that's another thing I would say broadly to the audience out there, which is, I know this is tough. We're all very strapped for time. But if you have a product that you either love or like you have to use and they ask you for your feedback, please give it. That's how you get better products. Don't just dismiss those surveys or those, like, if someone reaches out to you like, hey, would you mind talking to us about your experience on Tinder or whatever? Like, try to make time. It's how we get better products. It's really tough with consumer stuff though. You'll find, I guess it made me think of this, that like, oh yeah, you all have had this like ready-made like context for those conversations to just happen organically. It's like the sort of opposite feeling with software where it just feels like you're like pulling teeth to get people to talk to you.
I will say though, that's true from a process perspective though. I think you'll find that there's so much overlap, or there's so much that you can take from these sort of agile, software research and development processes into your services business or into, this brick and mortar, in-person events space. Part of your business where you've got to think about, operationally, like, okay, let's make sure we leave in, space for getting feedback from people, or, how does that look with in-person versus how we need to do it with software. There's a lot of overlap there. So I think it'll be, overall a great learning experience.
And once you start having these more, I don't know how to put it, like motivated conversations, where you're really just having a conversation with someone, but you're trying to get specific information out of them. It's sort of hard to keep yourself from doing it all the time. Like, it's gotten to the point where my husband is just like, wait, are you user interviewing me right now? Because he'll say something and I'll be like, tell me more about that. And he'll talk and I'll ask some like pointed questions. And he's like, wait a minute. He's like, this isn't a market opportunity. Cut it out. I'm just telling you about my day. But it's a great way of having a conversation because people feel really, when you do ask people like, tell me about the role of spreadsheets in your job. People get to talk about the things that matter to them. And, to someone who's very interested and engaged, that like really doesn't happen that often in life. And it's a really good feeling to be on the receiving end of that, but to also be the person conducting it. Like, you learn so much by being open to people's experience that way. And it's kind of like, it ends up being like a hard thing to turn off.
Okay, well, we'll have to share the rest of this conversation that I'm sure could keep going on for hours and hours for other sessions. But we just kicked this program off with Womanish. We'll be going for the next 7 weeks. We've got a couple of live streams that we'll sprinkle in there, some other content like blog posts, some other ways to keep in touch and hear about the progress that we're making and all of the interesting things that we're learning. So join us for those. Always give us your questions and feedback and comments. We care about, the kind of things that are resonant for you and that you're interested in hearing about. So I also want to plug another event that we have that's not related to the incubator, but it's for startup founders. So we're doing an event with a couple of other companies, Forecaster, Startup Stack, Dropbox Send. We're going to be doing a pitch practice event. So you can apply to be selected for this exclusive panel review of your pitch deck and pitch. So this is for startup founders. The applications for that are still open. I'll link them in the comments here, but that's going to be happening next next Wednesday, February 28th. Yes. And I'll be on that panel, which is super fun, as a former product designer and person who gets to work with a lot of startups and, do this very early stage research work. I love giving feedback. I know how valuable it is at this stage. And so come to that if you're interested. We'll be doing that directly with y'all, Deanna and Danielle. So you don't need to apply for that, but you can come because it will be a good time. Yeah, so stay updated. Go to our website. You can get on the mailing list for incubator updates, or sign up for other content at thoughtbot.com. Yeah, thanks for joining for this first session, y'all. This was really fun. I'm so excited. I know the team's really excited to continue working with y'all too. So
Thank you, guys. This was fun. Until next time.
yeah,
Yes.
thanks, y'all.
Bye.